Matthew, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks,
Okay,
Daniel.
so we're going to rock in and talk about SEO. SEO is like one of those black boxes. Nobody really understands it, or not a lot of business owners do. So I want to spend our time today, Matthew, just breaking down like what are the practical steps that any business owner or marketing director or any person could implement and start seeing success in the SEO world.
Step one is probably a little bit different than what you would think. Some people might say keyword research, find out what keywords people are searching for, figure out your content. Those are all really important initial steps. But the very first thing is just to realize if SEO is for you or not. And it isn't for everybody. Part of that whole mythical thing that you described, I get that constantly. Like people just don't understand it. Or they maybe know a little bit about SEO and they just don't know any of the details. And part of the thing that happens when people don't understand it is they think they need it, but they don't really know that they don't need it. So your audience may not be on Google searching for you. And that's true for a lot of industries, a lot of B2B industries. Like for example, I talked to an attorney the other day who deals with real estate law, and many of their clients are huge corporations that own millions of units across New York City.
And they're not Googling.
Yeah. I mean, a person like that is tapping their referral network to try to figure out what attorney to go with.
Right.
And the same for other large scale businesses that are dealing with other businesses. Like if you're a steel company and you're selling to an auto manufacturer, there may be some things to help make it so that you look halfway presentable in search, but an ongoing SEO campaign is probably not the best place to spend your money. So I'd say first step, figure out if it's for you. If you're B2C, there's a good chance that SEO is going to be helpful because consumers go to search constantly. More than 70% of people go to a search engine to find what they're looking for online. And so if you're B2C, there's a good chance that SEO is something you need to be strongly considering. If you're B2B, maybe you got to look at your audience, figure out how your audience is finding you. Is it on search? Is it on social? Is it through a referral network? Is it?
How do you find that out though, Matthew? How do you find that out? Like if I know nothing about SEO and you're telling me to find out, and I'm like, I don't know.
That leads me to my next first step. Coincidentally,
this is the second first step. I love it.
Keyword research. So part of keyword research is just figuring out if there's search volume for keyword phrases.
Right.
I know when I first talk with clients, they're like, man, I want to rank for the word this, and I want to rank for this term. And you kind of have to pull back and say, wait a minute. There's this thing called searcher intent where you have to figure out what keyword phrases people are using to find your product or service, and whether those phrases have searcher intent. And we're in the legal vertical, so that's what was the top of mind for me. So, ranking for the term lawyer is probably not going to get you the kind of leads you want, but ranking for the term car accident lawyer if you're a PI attorney, is probably going to get you more relevant traffic.
I love it. Okay, so step one, figure out if your audience purchases through, search basically. Step two, research your keywords, make sure there's volume. What's step three?
So this is where you can kind of get into the weeds a little bit. There's a lot of different things that impact where a site ranks in search. A lot of it has to do with how your site is built, and a lot of it has to do with the links pointing at your website. So I would say after you find that there's keyword phrases you can use and you decide which ones you're going to use based on purchase intent, the next step is to make sure that your website is structured in a way that will help it rank well in search. And you can do that. Google has a lot of free tools, Google Search Console. There's even some limited free use of tools like SEO Moz or Moz's SEO tool. Ahrefs has just come out with a free version, Ahrefs Search Console. I think it's called ASC. It's either already launched or it's launching soon, where you can get some of their data for free to try to see how your site shapes up. SEMrush is another good one that we use.
So we're talking tools now. So what you're saying is step one, figure out if your people buy online. Step two, figure out what your keywords. And then it sounds like step three is get a tool to start measuring your existing website and or, your competitors' websites, I guess, and figuring out where the holes are.
I mean, we can go through like every single thing, but a tool will you can oftentimes take your site, plug it in, and it'll do an audit for you, and
Yep.
it'll point out any deficiencies. I mean, we have lots of content on our site, esq.marketing.com, or I'm sorry, esq.marketing, where you can learn about some of the common things to look for what we call it on-site SEO, some of the things that are related to your site that you have control over that you need to change. And a lot of it has to do with content organization, making sure that each page is targeting a specific keyword phrase, making sure that the keyword phrases are in key foundational places of those pages, in the title and the meta descriptions and the headings, making sure that you have robust content for that particular topic.
I know, like several years ago, we were building our content creation strategy here at MyOutDesk, and we didn't have blog segmented from webinar. So all of our blogs and webinars looked the same on our site. And what that meant was when we got to the tool, like we use SEMrush, when we got to that tool, there was no way to effectively measure the results from either webinars or the results from the content we were creating in blogs or the results. And so structure is a big deal. And I don't want to glaze over it, because what I'd spent probably the first 7-8 years of my career, we didn't have an effective website content structure in place. So we didn't know which one was winning for us in terms of generating traffic.
Yeah, that can be a problem. And if you look at Google's mission statement was to organize the world's information, or at least it used to be at one point. And it can really confuse them when you don't have a well organized site in terms of content. Like if you have one page focused on a lot of different topic areas and it's all over the place, they don't necessarily know if that's the best particular piece of content for that topic area when they go and they look in their index to show it to somebody who's searching for it.
I love it. I love it. You had mentioned there was a little conversation about social, but I want to make sure that we're clear about not only social, but video, and how video and social should be incorporated into this content game so that we're having the best results. What does that look like for you?
So we don't do social as an agency, and then social and SEO, I mean, I could speak to it in terms of promotion. I feel like it's a valuable promotional tool.
Yep.
Look, I mean, social is a great way to promote your site, promote your products and services, whether it's paid or organic. I do think everyone should be at least investigating if social is the right channel for them. And if it is, I think you should be, present and participating there. I think it's great for getting eyeballs on content, because you need eyeballs on content in order for people to be like, oh, cool, this is a handy post, I'm going to link to this.
Yep.
So I think as a secondary channel for SEO, like in promoting content to get links, I think it's really valuable there.
And this will be our final question, then we'll wrap up. But what should a business, especially an attorney, be spending on owning their SEO and their keywords and having their website rank and all that? Like, what percentage? Is it $2,000? Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? I'm just kind of curious for the average, practice,
Yeah, if you're doing $300K to $500K in revenue per year as a solo practice, or a practice with maybe a couple of attorneys.
Yeah. I
think, and again, depending on your niche, maybe everything outside PI, you're looking at a minimum of like $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Got it.
That's really what it takes to generate results in search, because like I mentioned all the stuff before, it's just really labor intensive. There's a lot of outreach that goes on with link building. There's a lot of time spent on, building citations, making content, organizing websites. So if you do encounter someone who's, charging a lot less than that, I would just be leery, ask a lot of questions, make sure that, because, you get what you pay for. And it's
for sure.
It's hard for anybody to generate results without, using a budget less than that in today's climate with SEO.
All right, Matthew, thanks for joining us today. We've learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate your time and your willingness to just share with our audience.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Daniel.